Hey everybody, in today's video we're going to talk about best practices as it relates to partnerships. If a partnership is structured properly, managed properly, and communication flows well between the partners, it can really work out well. But if you miss some of the key steps, it can really go sideways very quickly and be very costly. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk a bit about partnerships. Partnerships come up often in my calls with clients, and they're exploring different partnerships that they want to get into. Now, I would say over the last 21 years, I've probably been in between 40 to 50 partnerships, and some of those partnerships are, starting a company together. Sometimes it's bringing in partners and money. Sometimes it's leveraging expertise. Other times it might just be partnering in regards to an alliance between two or more companies where we'll go into a market together. That model, which is one of our fundamental tools of GoCO, is called a hunting pack, which I'm going to get into in a future video. But what I think is important is to get right back to the studs, right? Kind of rip the walls down and look at what constitutes a good partnership and the steps and processes you can put in place to optimize your chances of a partnership going well. Now, you might get a feel just from how I started this video that there's a bit of a negative connotation to partnerships. And there is. I always think of partnerships kind of like marriages, right? A big proportion of them end poorly because people are not really clear of what they're getting into, and they end up getting in deep. They start to run afoul of each other. Things start to get anxious, and then they get angry, and then they really get confrontational, and then they blow up. I've been in a lot of great partnerships, and I've been in probably as many, if not a majority, that didn't end well. And so I have some best practices on what to put in place to really optimize the chances of having a successful outcome with your partners. But if they are going sideways, how to remove yourself or them gracefully and having a system to do so. Now, before we get into the systems that will help with your partnership, let's look at what the stereotypical partnership looks like. One person comes in and they think, geez, it would be fun to build business with another person. Often it's a friend, it could be a spouse, it could be a sibling, but they think, if there's two of us, we get to share the labor. We get to share the spoils, but we also get to share the labor. And what happens is in that honeymoon phase, it's really exciting. You're coming up with the plan, you're thinking big picture, you're already starting to spend the money and fantasize about the lifestyle that you're going to have. But what happens is when the rubber meets the road and things start to get hard, rather than pulling together, you start to bang against each other because you haven't gotten clear at the beginning on a bunch of fundamentals around the partnership, including who's going to do what, how you define particular things, including success, and how you're going to deal with conflict, which will inevitably show up in any partnership. Now, looking at partnerships and best practices, what I can say is for every one partnership that I've been in personally, I've observed probably 50 partnerships, right? With clients over the years and even partners partnering with others. I've been able to sit on the sidelines and watch how these relationships evolve over time. And there are some best practices that you can put in place to really make sure that you're protecting yourself and protecting the people you're doing business with. The first thing that you want to do is when looking at a partnership, I want you to ask yourself the question, why am I partnering with this person? There should be a strategic answer to that, not, they're my best friend or they're my sister and we want to do something together. But from an outside point of view, what value are they bringing to the table for you that you don't already have? You have the same skill set as they do. Maybe you're thinking, well, we both have kids and so we can cover for each other. Or maybe, they can cover when I need to take time off to go do something else and vice versa. Those partnerships don't tend to last. The ones that work best are where partners have complementary and different skill sets, right? You're peanut butter, I'm jam. You're spaghetti, I'm spaghetti sauce. Individually, you're okay, but when you come together, that's where the magic happens. And what I recommend to clients and what I try to practice myself is I never take on a partner with a skill set that I can afford to buy. Let me repeat that because it's very important. I never take on a partner with a skill set that I can afford to buy. The reason why I think this through in my head is equity in a successful business increases in value over time. And if you have, a partner that's a bookkeeper, no offense to bookkeepers, but the bookkeeper partner's job is to do the bookkeeping and maybe to pay the bills. And your job is to build the product or service, to sell it, to service the clientele, to engage strategic partnerships, to oversee management, to do the hiring, to do the firing, to secure your supply chain. You do all of this, and the other partner does bookkeeping, something that you can buy for $20 an hour, a resentment is going to start to kick in. And I often see that these partnerships, when they start out, are 50-50, right? I'll take care of all the financial, which means the bookkeeping and paying the bills, and you take care of operations and sales, which is 95% of the work. As this person does their part, and this person, does the bookkeeping and pays the bills, this person generates the revenue, and they start to resent this person because they're like, well, all you're doing is bookkeeping. They start to think in their head, why the hell have I given you 30, 40, 50% of this company when I can basically hire what you do for $20 an hour? This is where animosity starts to kick in. So kind of rule number one in a partnership is don't go into partnership with anyone that has a skill set that you can afford to buy. Now, the second rule, assuming that you are partnering with somebody with a complementary skill set that really amplifies what you do, is to be clear on defining the rules and responsibilities. Don't start off the relationship by saying, well, we'll kind of all do everything and we'll all chip in a hand. That is almost guaranteed to be a recipe for disaster. What you want to do is make a list of all the functions that the business will have to do. And if you're not sure of what those functions are, Google it online, right? What are the different functions a business has to do? From financial to sales to operations to procurement to credit to yada, 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 HR. You need to break out every function that business is going to require, and then you put it in one or two camps, assuming that you have two partners. I'm going to do this, you're going to do that. I'm going to do this, you're going to do that. And what you want to do is make sure that there is a clear and equal division of responsibility. Now, if one person is well versed to do 70% and the second person is only really able to do 30%, that would be represented in the partnership structure, right? The person doing the most would get this. The person doing less would get this. Of course, one of the factors that comes in is financing, right? The person who's only doing 30% might also kick in some of the money to get the business started. And so then those levels of equity would be adjusted. But these are all things that you're going to want to sort out before you actually start the partnership. I see people trying to figure it out while the company is running, and that almost always, in fact, I can't think of a time where it hasn't ended in doom and gloom, where people are fighting. So having clarity on who's going to do what when is key to making sure that each partner knows what their responsibility is and what they are to count on the others for. One note I should add on that particular point is sometimes people have kind of an inflated idea of what their abilities are. So what you want to do is not only have the function that they're going to do, but the measurable. So if somebody's overseeing the bookkeeping, you wouldn't say, okay, you're the bookkeeper. What you would say is your job is to create financial statements on a quarterly basis, to do financial reporting on a monthly basis, to manage all of our accounts receivable, and to ensure all of our debt is being paid properly and that we're negotiating our debt rates at a preferred rate. That's the level of detail you need to make sure that each partner knows what they're supposed to be doing, the frequency of doing it, and the responsibility they have to their partner to doing their particular part. And the third thing that I want you to remember when going into this partnership, assuming you've decided that that partner is suitable and that the roles and responsibilities are clear, is to now have a partnership agreement drafted. Now, don't do this yourself. Don't be one of those yahoos that buys the $20 kit from the drugstore and decides you're going to do it yourself. If the partnership is worth investing in, it's worth having a proper partnership agreement. And a partnership agreement, the rule I have in my head about them is they are developed by friends and executed by enemies. What does that mean? It means that during the honeymoon phase, when you're all, laughs and giggles, and this is all lots of fun, you're saying, hey, we'll take care of each other and we're both going to make lots of money and it's going to be great. That is all bullshit, because when things get hard, right, and you're working the 16, 18-hour days, which you could be, you want to see that your partner's doing the same thing. And if they're not, you want a reason and a rationale to get rid of them. your reasoning and rationale would be in the partnership agreement, listing out what the roles and responsibilities are so that everyone's clear. And if that partner isn't doing their part, you have a remedy to dissolve the partnership. There are things that your lawyer can explain to you, including like a shotgun clause and a buyout clause and a right of first refusal clause and all of these different terms that you can have in the agreement to dissolve the partnership if and when you need to. So being a betting guy, what I'm telling you is probably over half of the partnerships that you go into will dissolve. Having a properly documented partnership agreement will put the rules in place for how that partnership will be dissolved so that it doesn't end up becoming a big fight. Overall, partnerships can really be special, but it is almost a unicorn when it comes to models in business. For every, one that works, I would say 40 to 50 don't. And the reason why they don't is they haven't done the steps which I've talked about in this video. If somebody is worth partnering with, it's worth investing the time to be very clear on who's going to do what. I have done businesses with friends in the past, right back, before I knew better, and they just didn't work out and were damaging to the personal relationship because somebody is always left holding the bag and the other person feels like they dropped the ball or they got pushed out of the company or whatever. Business is based on personal relationships, but it can't just be personal relationships. It has to make sense. It has to be documented, and you got to have it papered, right? Which means having an agreement in place if it's worth doing. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down. Comments and questions below. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I wish you the very best in your partnerships, but trust me when I tell you, if you don't do the steps we talked about in this video, my guess is it's not going to go the way that you want it to, and you're probably going to waste a lot of money and, more importantly, a lot of time. And I guess the worst part is you could lose a personal relationship. Anyway, that's all. And remember, gladiators eat first, and they only partner with people who increase the value of the business that they're building. See you in the next one.